I think these are actually some very, very important statistics, and that's why I'm bringing them back. And this illustration will be a little bit longer, but then we'll get into a number of Bible verses and we'll pull it all together, okay? So we did look at these in 2022, and this will be a bit of an update. All right. Right now, in North America and in the world, and for the last while, there has been an epidemic, and we all know this. And we're not talking about COVID-19. We're talking about an epidemic, a mental health epidemic, an epidemic of despair, depression, anxiety, and loneliness. And it's real. It really is much worse than it used to be. We'll be talking a number of quotes from this guy. Tyler Vander Weel is a professor at Harvard, which maybe not the best place to be anymore, but he is very well known and does a lot of research into this area. Deaths of despair have led to reduced life expectancies in the United States for 3 consecutive years, 2015, 2016, 2017, the longest consecutive decline in life expectancies since World War I. So after each of these stats, I just want you to let it sink in for a minute, okay? Deaths of despair means largely people killing themselves or people dying early as a result of mental health issues in some other way. That has become so prevalent, even as far back as 2015, 16, and 17, that it's led to overall reduced life expectancy in the United States. What? These are stats we looked at 2 years ago. I'll update us in a minute with some more current stats. In the United States, emergency room visits related to depression, anxiety, and similar conditions up 28% between 2011 and 2015. What do you think the pandemic did to that? Think it made it better or worse? Globally, symptoms of anxiety and depression doubled during the pandemic. U.S. Surgeon General, December 2021. Symptoms which were already really bad, already historically high, doubled during the pandemic. Of course, because we were all isolated and alone and afraid, many of us. This is a more recent, this is Forbes magazine, just last year, put out in 2023. Suicide rate reaches all-time high in 2022. According to American CDC data. Okay, it was already had hit records again and again. Suicide rate reached an all-time high again in 2022. Times Magazine, last year, I believe 2023 is last year now, suicide rates have risen about 30% since the year 2000. Almost a third of U.S. adults now report symptoms of either depression or anxiety, roughly 3 times as many as in 2019. Okay, the Canadian statistics, sometimes they're harder to find, there's not as many studies, but they trend right along with the rest of the U.S. statistics, North American statistics in general. And then look at this. This is, one more. About 1 in 25 adults has a serious mental illness like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. 1 in 25. This chart, you're not going to be able to read the fine print on this chart, but this chart, I think, of all the things I looked at this week, I was trying to think, okay, what's the update on this epidemic of mental health issues? This one was the most striking to me, okay? This was in the same Times Magazine article published last year, and what you're looking at is 2 different graphs superimposed on each other. The black line is the percentage of people receiving treatment for mental health. So they're receiving treatment, medication, counseling services, hospitalization. The black line is receiving treatment. I mean, you can see where the pandemic hit, right? Right here. The red line is the number of people who report having excellent mental health. My mental health is fine. I got no problems there. Now, this is not saying that treatment doesn't work. Don't interpret the graph that way. But what it's saying is the treatments that we are using are not even making a dent They are not solving the problem. It's way bigger. It's that overwhelming. That pouring in more and more. I mean, look at the treatment level. Compare like 2010 treatment level to the treatment level today. It was like 5%. Now you have more, like 35% of people receiving treatment for mental health. And it's not solving the problem. It is necessary, absolutely, but it's not enough. So what are we going to do? So that's the end of the message. Go home and have more mental health problems after this message. Okay. Here's another, my favorite quote from this guy. This is Tyler Vanderweel. I don't know him. He's just a professor at Harvard. Okay. If one could conceive of a single elixir, like a magic potion, to improve the physical and mental health of millions of Americans and Canadians at no personal cost, what value would our society place on it? What if you could fix or make a huge dent in this graph without it even costing anything? Well, it does cost something, but no cost to the government, no cost to individuals. Attending church once a week or more is correlated. Okay, now I'm going to give you a bunch of stats from him. Because what he's talking about in this quote, what he's talking about is church attendance. When he talks about a magic elixir, something that could improve all of this, he's talking about going to church regularly. This Harvard professor, I don't know if he's a believer or not. Attending church once a week or more is correlated with reduced mortality by 20 to 30% over a period of 15 years. Again, each time I give a stat, I almost need to just stop, think about that for a minute. What else in your life could make you have a 30% less chance of dying? And this isn't even the point of church. This isn't even why we go to church. You don't go to church so you don't keel over and die, do you? Maybe. Let's compare this for a minute, okay? Because this is a real, overall mortality. So your chance of dying in a 15-year period, okay? What are some other things that you know are going to help you live longer and not die? Exercise, okay. Check this out. American Medical Association 2023. Those who worked out 2 to 4 times above the moderate physical activity recommendations. 300 to 600 minutes each week. How many hours is that? 5 to 10 hours a week. How many people here consistently work out for 10 hours a week? 0, okay? But if you worked out strenuously for 10 hours a week, these people see the most benefit in studies. Participants had a 26 to 31% lower overall cause mortality. All-cause mortality. So there's something. Okay? So here's your choice. Things that are pretty similar, you can go to church once a week, which takes about an hour and a half, and you get to hang with your friends, and I'll make you tacos afterwards. Or you can work out strenuously 10 hours every week. You can pick. Okay, what about a healthy diet? That's going to make you live longer, right? Like super. Consistent healthy eating. This one is actually harder to track because, what does healthy eating mean? That's a big question. But consistent healthy eating was shown to reduce overall mortality by 16 to 22% compared with a more typical North American diet, University of California in 2021. Okay? So if you change your whole diet and you eat the way they tell you to. How many of us eat the way they tell you to? Anybody? One of us. Good. I mostly do. Okay? You change your diet and eat the way they tell you to, you're going to get half the benefit. Now, I am not telling you, you should exercise and you should eat well, right? You all know it. You should also go to church. Now, I know I'm literally preaching to the church. Telling people who are at church to go to church. Keep coming to church, okay? Notice this is once a week. Ooh, not everybody maybe makes that once a week. Okay. All right, here's some other quotes. Those who participate in religious services at least once a week are more optimistic, have lower rates of depression, are less likely to commit suicide than those who don't. One large-scale study of U.S. women found that those who attended religious services at least once a week, means they're going to other church activities as well, were 5 times less likely to kill themselves than those who never attended. I maybe need to stop for like a whole minute right there. Some of us in this room have had some close people kill themselves in the last while. Those who went to church once a week were 5 times less likely to kill themselves. Why? If you're in church, it's probably obvious why. Now, here's another remarkable thing, okay? Someone might say, well, is it just because you're around people? Because we know that having close relationships, good relationships with other people is a massive health benefit. And so we can't go into details. This is not a university seminar, but there are ways to account for that and figure out how much of the benefit of church is due to just the social interaction. And the answer, it seems, is about a quarter. So is it good to interact socially and go to clubs and participate, volunteer other places, do lots of stuff? Yes. It is very good for you to do those things and have relationships. In fact, it's so good, it's about 25% as good as going to church. That's how good it is. Going to church once a week is 4 times as good for you. Once again, if one could conceive of a single elixir to improve the physical and mental health of millions and millions of the whole world at no personal cost, what value would our society place on it? And the answer seems to be, our society tells us it's stupid and you shouldn't go. That's what our society says. Church is useless, right? Absolutely useless. And these things that we've been looking at aren't even the main thing you get out of church. That's why only a quarter of the benefit. They can't even figure out what causes the other 3/4. Because it's invisible. You know what causes it? God. What causes it? You have a purpose in your life. What causes it? You are changed to become more like Jesus. How are you going to measure that? You can't. So, all of you who are at church, you should go to church. Okay. Oh, what a silly thing. All right, so let's jump. You guys who are at home, I don't know what the benefit of live stream is. I'm sure it's some of the benefit. I'm also sure it's not all of the benefit. So we love that you're with us on the live stream, and we want to get to know you better.